Happy Sunday. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Barnett, Wright.
How are you?
A regular on the show.
Absolutely. I need some kind of medal or something, like the regulars come on. And
You're one of them.
It's always good to be here.
It's great. How's the paper?
Paper's going really, really well. Getting a lot of stuff out. We're talking about a lot of issues. Alzheimer's, child abuse prevention. So we're covering a lot of big topics.
And you've got something coming up about individuals that are doing something off the grid?
We have a thing called Third Thursdays, in which we're featuring those individuals who are going above and beyond in the community, who are serving as inspiration, serving as hope. So we're going to feature them every third Thursday in our newspaper and online.
Okay, that'll be great.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
What's for instance?
Marco Morosini, who is a restaurant owner. Tommy, on Christmas night, he and his 13-year-old daughter went down to the BJCC to feed homeless people. And most of us on Christmas, we're relaxing, but he is an example of someone who is showing inspiration, hope, and telling us what we can become and what we can do.
So let's get back to our city government. I'd like to talk about our new mayor and what's going on in City Hall. And I know that Randall's working hard every day. I talk to him every now and then, and I know he cares, but he's got his work cut out for him. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, it's a steep learning curve.
Yeah, and it's not just him. I mean, it's not a one-man gig.
And that's a great point, because he has department heads. He's brought in a lot of new people. And I think it would be safe to say that he has cleaned house. He's gotten rid of a lot of the holdovers from the previous administration, Mayor Bell's administration. He's brought in a lot of younger folks. And to your point, they have to learn government. Yeah. So he has a lot of people around him. He has a lot of staff around him that are new to government. And as you know, there are always these little moving pieces that you never expect. So you can come in the office, and then there are things that'll crop up or come up. For example, a ordinance, right? That's on the books, or there's a law, and even the city attorney is new. So all of this has to be learned on the job.
But that's a long-range learning curve. And it's not a 4-year proposition, I don't think.
No, but remember, a lot of these things need immediate attention, right? I mean, yes, over the long haul, you can learn, but what happens if a resident, let's say in Inglenook, calls up and says that there's a sinkhole in her front yard? Yeah. What do? You
got to jump on it.
You got to jump on it.
You can't put out the fires that are glowing at your feet.
Right, you can't wait for 4 years.
That's similar to my business. You have to put out the fires that are the hottest. For my purposes, what I hear the chief complaint to be is at the consumer level. In other words, the individual who walks into City Hall to get a building permit, for example, and the trouble they run into in just trying to simply get that done. And so that's where I hear people complaining. Trying to get things done in the city of Birmingham is difficult. And I know Randall is working very hard to try to make that not be the case.
Yeah, because you want to attract businesses, especially small businesses. And I think that they have taken steps to address that. They had, during Small Business Week, they were throughout the city. They went into a lot of different neighborhoods and talked to small business owners. They had ribbon cuttings. They shine the spotlight on some of these businesses. But what I can't understand is that has been a long-term problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes all the way back to the Bernard Kincaid administration.
Oh, yeah. But if not beyond.
If not beyond. But why not take steps to do what's being done in cities like Vestavia Hills? Because I've heard some business owners say they went to Birmingham, they had difficulty getting a permit, getting things done in Birmingham. They went to Vestavia Hills, and it was done within a couple of days.
Yes, or Fultondale, or Hoover.
Right.
Same thing.
These surrounding communities, absolutely, not just Vestavia Hills, but
so we're bleeding. Birmingham inner city is bleeding in some respects because they're not able to accommodate the people they need to accommodate to accomplish the projects they want to accomplish. For example, home building.
Right.
That's one of them.
And it's still early, and here's the other thing too, is the home building is important because there's a lot of dilapidated housing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you tear those down, what do you replace it with?
Well, my suggestion would be to replace it with a new house. But in order to get a new house, you have to have a building permit.
That's the point.
And therein lies the problem.
That's the point.
And if you're building houses, then you're creating jobs. There are carpenters that can work, framers. I mean, there's good money to be made. You don't have to go to college and have a master's degree in business administration to be able to have a decent lifestyle. You can do some of that work, but we've got to get that ball rolling.
And here's the other thing. You're moving families in, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing families in once they're constructed. You bring the families in, and that adds to the vibrancy of your community.
Well, do you see, you're there every day watching it. We don't see as the outside looking in the things you just talked about, the ribbon cuttings, the things that were going on, because you can't show it. I mean, you can't know everything that's going on. But I know in my heart, and I know Randall personally, that he is working every day to try to advance the ball, so to speak.
He is, but he also needs talented people around him. I think he has that, but I think he's also recruiting more.
Well, we'll get back to that when we come back from break. Okay?
Sure.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. I'm with Barnett Wright. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm Tommy Spina, talking with Barnett Wright with Birmingham Times. Senior editor, I believe they call you.
Executive editor, but
executive editor.
You know, at heart, I'm still a reporter.
Yes, you are. And he still calls me every New Year's Eve, unless I call him first, to wish me a Happy New Year. So what's going on with economic development countywide?
There's a lot going on. Economic development.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Share it with us.
Absolutely.
We don't know.
Absolutely.
We don't see it.
Yeah.
We see cranes, but we don't know.
Well, the jobs are coming in. There are a lot of announcements coming in. Out in Bessemer, they've had a huge announcement of jobs coming in Jefferson County. And this may be one of the more pro-business county commissions we've had in a long time. David Carrington, Jimmy Stevens, principally, and of course you have support from Joe Knight, Sandra Little Brown, and George Bowman. But, you know, they have made it their business, Tommy, to push the ball forward, bring jobs, and make Jefferson County viable again in light, especially after the huge bankruptcy, which we've talked about a number of times.
Well, they've certainly freed up their ability to spend money in ways they were unable to pre-bankruptcy because they were strapped.
Right, but here's what they did that was smart. They set up an economic development fund, and I think it had about $25 million in it. And that money was used to recruit businesses, to retain businesses, to go out, buy land.
Well, how did they do that? Give them incentives?
Absolutely.
Tax incentives.
Tax incentives. Abatements, they call them, as we know. So there's incentives to bring the jobs here, and that's been tremendous.
Yeah, it has on a countywide level. And I hope we see it, as we talked in the last segment, at the citywide level. What's going on with Amazon? Are we out of the box there?
Yes.
No pun intended?
Well, as far as bringing Amazon, the huge, big conglomerate with the $1 billion.
I keep hearing something about Amazon.
Yeah, but that's what you've heard is a distribution center in Bessemer, which is not the headquarters coming here having.
No, we've already lost that.
We've already lost that, but we have one in another area. So.
And it's real?
It's very real, yes.
Is it inked? Not yet? You can't talk about it?
The word is it will be inked.
And that will be placed out somewhere near 459?
Yeah, in Bessemer.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly some space available out there.
Yeah. And see, that's the one thing that's beneficial to this area. We have a lot of land in Jefferson County, in different parts of Jefferson County. And I think the county, along with the BBA, Birmingham Business Alliance, they have identified a lot of land where you can recruit, attract, and bring these businesses here.
So the land that you're talking about is not owned by non-government entity? It's owned by the government?
It's well, I
Or
don't know specifically who it's owned by, but I do know you need some governmental approval, like the Bessemer City Council has given their approval to it.
oh, I see.
And then the county offers some incentives, and everybody else chips in. You have to do right-of-way work, road work, and those type things, and everybody's cooperating.
And ultimately, it becomes attractive for the purchaser and the business owner.
Absolutely, and it's also attractive for this area because you're talking about 3,000 jobs,
Wow,
up to 3,000 jobs, which is
Yeah.
significant.
that's big.
Yes.
That's a little larger than that thing they're going to do with the Trinity property across the street from the municipal garage. They put a data center in there. You don't want to talk about that?
Well,
That's something dear to my heart. But
Ye-
the
why is it?
Birmingham Humane Society is not going in there.
No, they won't be going in
No,
there.
they're not. Uh,
And they've pledged to find some other space for them.
I understand, and there's great cooperation going on, but we do need to address that issue.
But they were very kind.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm not dogging them. No pun intended. I've said that twice. I did the box, and now I did the dogging them.
I get
I
it.
think I've got a whole new thing going there. Maybe I should go there.
Yeah.
What is going on with the Humane Society, if you know anything about
I
it?
haven't heard anything recently about him
In
about
terms
that.
of finding them a new location. They
Right.
just run out of space, basically.
Yeah, they have. But they pledged to help them find some place where they can relocate. And we know politicians always keep their word.
Well, they try. Things change.
Things
Things are
change.
moving. Speaking of changing,
Yeah.
there is an election coming up. Now, while we're taping, we don't know exactly what the makeup of that county commission is going to be
Right.
come November.
Right.
So, do you foresee any dynamics out there that would have a significant impact on what you've been talking about?
Well, one of the questions that we just talked about with the city, right, was experience. Now, David Carrington
Is leaving.
is leaving, and he brought a wealth of experience to the job. He had served 2 terms. One of the terms he served as president. He was a huge proponent of economic development, so he would definitely be missed. The question is, who will be the other politicians or other elected officials now on that board, and that would determine probably the next step, the next phase in the county.
And we don't, well, the only seat that's up for election is going to be Sandra Little Brown's seat, right?
Brown and Bowman are up, and the other Carrington seat has to be filled, and Stevens. They have Stevens and Knight. Knight does not have any primary opponent. Stevens does, but the polls show that Stevens is an overwhelming favorite.
Okay. Well, I want to talk something about the personnel board when we come back, if you don't mind. 'Cause
Sure.
That's a little bit of a burr in my saddle.
Okay.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking with Barnett Wright. We cut that break talking about the county commission, and I want to go back and look into the personnel board and the consent decree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been around so long. I would say it's comical, but it's also sad that those things are in place. It's even sadder that they had to be put in place,
Right.
to me. But they are in place. What's the status of those
Well,
with the personnel board particularly? Because outlying cities, Hoover's not a member, Vestavia is, I know, and it creates problems internally when they come to hire people.
right. Well, let's take it one at a time. The consent decree, the county's been under, as you mentioned, the consent decree for more than 3 decades over its hiring practices, unfair hiring practices, discriminatory hiring practices. A federal judge is overseeing that case.
Still Judge Smith?
Still Judge Linwood Smith, federal Judge Linwood Smith. The county probably will be exiting, and this is probably breaking news for your viewers. They will probably be coming out of that federal oversight probably sometime this year.
Boy.
Okay, and after 35 or more years.
That ought to boost the bottom line of the county's budget.
It should.
Just saying, lawyers aren't cheap.
Right. And they will have a monitor, as you know, and I think you understand how, first you had a receiver, okay, then who basically the receiver ran the county, the human resources department. So they will now have a monitor just to make sure they're in compliance with the terms of the exit from the consent decree.
So there'll be an order entered that finalizes the consent decree in some way. There'll be some modification of the consent decree.
Right, or
that passes the torch, so to speak.
Right, the receivership will end, okay, but not the oversight. The monitor will still be paying attention to them. So that's a huge step for Jefferson County. So they'll come out from under that consent decree. Now, the personnel board, I think you and I may see a little bit differently on the personnel board because, Tommy, the personnel board had to be in place to make sure that these municipalities were equal in who they hired. Some municipalities, some were not doing what they were supposed to do. So in order to get the best qualified people, you have to have the personnel board set up to make sure that I have just as much of a chance to get a job as somebody's nephew, okay, who's not qualified for that position.
Right. I hear you, but some may say it's a hindrance to getting the person you want to be in that job, regardless of nepotism. Let's say let's say I'm still judge in Vestavia, which I'm not, and I want a magistrate, and I know a magistrate that works in some other city that wants to leave that city and come to my city. It's not an easy trick to make that happen, or even have it happen.
Suppose there are two other magistrates who are equally qualified or who are qualified for that job, but listen to what you just said. You know a magistrate in another city. What's to stop you from overlooking somebody who may be just as qualified?
Well, there's nothing to stop.
Is that fair for that person who
if the
is equally
decision
qualified?
not to hire is based on one of the protected classes of citizen, whether it be race, religion, or gender, then yeah, it's clearly wrong.
Right.
But if it's because that's a good hire,
right,
then I should be able to hire that person.
But here's where the problem comes in. I trust you. There's no doubt in my mind that you would do the right thing, that you would hire a person based on, you know, that's the old reporter in me when I'm talking to elected officials, okay? How dare you raise taxes?
I saw visions of my grandmother.
Oh, okay.
And my mother.
Okay. So let me do it this way, okay? I trust you, okay, to do what's right. But there have been historically people who won't do what's right, and that's been a problem.
That's true. But
yeah.
That's ingrained. Sad to say. I mean, you've written a book about it. How's the book doing, by the way?
The book does well on certain times of the year. Black History Month, it does well because it came out in 2013. It does well Black History Month, and it does well in September around when the church bombings. You know, the book is 1963, about, you know, that year, that tumultuous year.
You can plug it if you want to.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, 1963 by Barnett, Wright. Okay. So it's doing well.
It's
Thanks
sort
for
of
asking.
like my wine. I always buy my own wine. And then I learned that John Grisham used to buy his own books just so he could get the sales up. Do you buy your own books?
I don't buy my own books. I have enough of them sitting around the house.
So what do we have to look forward to in the future for Birmingham, Jefferson County in general?
I think it remains to be seen. The Woodfin administration, they're bringing young blood. Remember, and we haven't talked about this, so let's try and get this in before it ends, the new stadium. Right.
Yes, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
It was on my list.
Yes, they have a new stadium coming in, so that should help bring more revitalization to downtown. Okay. Yeah. UAB, they're also going to, and see, people haven't talked about this, they're going to renovate the BJCC.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to also help with shows, attract different concerts and conventions here, so that'll help.
So quite frankly, when you get downtown to uptown, on a night when something's going on at the BJCC, it is a very vibrant atmosphere.
Yes, Railroad Park is vibrant when they have Barons games. You have the Uptown you just talked about. I mean, there are going to be a lot of attractions in downtown. Top Golf.
Top Golf is killing them.
It's killing them. Yeah.
Have
So
you been?
I have not.
You don't want to wait 3 hours? What do you do for the 3 hours? You drink, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you can't swing the club.
Well, that's a plan for some people, right? So you have all of that.
Yeah, I don't like the screen that's up. I wish there was some way we could make a mural out of it somehow. Maybe I'll get top golf officials on one time to talk about it.
I'm sure they would love to.
Well, Birmingham is hopefully going to pick up the pace and maybe outdistance those competitive cities like Nashville and Charlotte and Atlanta's far gone. We're done with them.
Right, Orlando, some of those other cities.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks for being with
Okay.
us.
It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you. This is Our Issues Birmingham. I'm Tommy Spina. We'll see you next week.